In this video, we are going to implement the JWT authentication. Basically, that JWT authentication is the different strategy from the JSession ID which we have discussed in the last session. So, if I will show you our application which we have already executed, if you will go to the inspect and go to the network, right? At that time, if I refresh over here, I will see the JSession ID that is used to manage the session between the server and the client, right? Now, instead of using this JSession ID, we are going to use the JWT, okay? And what we require to implement when we are introducing the JWT, that is what we are going to see in this session. Okay, so obviously we are not going to use this JSession ID, but we are going to use the JWT. And that the JWT is the most popular authentication mechanism which is used in most of the full stack applications. Okay, so obviously that we should have knowledge of the JWT. Okay, and once we will finish the implementation, after that we will try to understand that how does it work. Okay, so let's start. So I'm moving to the IntelliJ IDEA, and there I'm going to create one utility class which is required in the JWT. So let me create a new Java class called JWT utils. Okay, the class name could be anything, right? And we require to have the bean of it, right? So I'm declaring it as a not bean, but it should be component. Okay, yeah. So let me remove this import that is not required right now. Okay, great. So we have implemented the JWT utils, right? And here in the JWT util class, we require two properties. Okay, so the first one is the JWT secret. This will be used whenever we are going to create the new token, or our application is going to create a new token. Okay, so this is one of the property which we require. Another property that is the JWT expiry. That means that after some time that the JWT token should be expired and the new token should be regenerated. Okay? That is for the security purpose. So I'm declaring another one, that is the JWT expiration in millisecond. Okay, expiration in millisecond. Let me correct the spelling. Expiration in millisecond. Okay, this is what I require. Okay, so we have declared two variables. Then we are going to have one method called JWT generate token or generate JWT token, right? So let's declare the method, that is the public string generate JWT token, right? And here that when the token should be generated, whenever the authentication would be done, at that time the token should be generated. So authentication argument which is going to be provided over here. So what does it mean? That once the user's credentials are matched, okay, after that the token is supposed to be generated, and this method is going to be called, right? So here inside this method, that the first thing is that we require to get the users principals means that the user's credential, like that what is the username, what are the rules assigned to that user. Okay, so how can I get that? I can get that with the help of the reference of authentication. So authentication dot get principals. Okay, so this get principals returns the user object, or I should say the user detail object. Okay, reference of user detail object which I require to catch it over here, right? So what I'm going to do, that I require to have the user detail implementation class, one separate class. Okay, and this user detail IMPL class will hold the user related information. Okay, so let me have that user detail IMPL class. Okay, so that class which I'm going to create in the model itself. So let's go to the model. This is the model. Here I'm going to create the user details. Okay, let me give the name like my user details. Okay, right, and this particular class must have to implement user detail. Okay, and if you can recall that we have already created the object of user details earlier also. So if you go to the user controller, and here if you sorry, not in the user controller but user detail service, where the user detail service is this one. Okay, so here you can see that we are creating the object of user details. So this is nothing but the object of the user detail, right? So if you open this open the documentation of this user class, right, there you can see that that implements the user detail, right? Okay, so the same thing we are doing over here with the my user details. Now instead of using the default or inbuilt user details, we are going to have our own implementation over here, right? Okay, and here obviously that I must have to implement all the methods. So I'm going to implement all the methods like get authority, get password, get username, is account expired, is account non-lock, is credential non-expired, is enable. Okay, everything that I'm going to handle over here, right? Okay, so everything is there, and along with that I require to have I require to have the credentials, not credentials, but the should I say that the constructor, that fully parameterized constructor. So I'm going to generate the fully parameterized constructor. Sorry, let me remove this. Let me declare the constructor once again. So should I get the option of fully parameterized constructor over here? Let me check. No, I'm not getting that option. Okay, let me check once again that what's wrong. Generate toString override method, copyright delegate method, override method is there, but obviously this is not for the constructor. Okay, so no problem. Let me have the inbuilt constructor or the default constructor. So let's have the default constructor, and inside the default constructor I'm going to declare everything like that. Here this every user would have the id variable that would work as the primary key. Okay, so private long id is there. Okay, here we don't require to specify like @id and all over here, right? Then we are going to have the username which is already there. So let's declare that field also, that private string username. Okay, also we require to have the password, like password. Okay, then we require to have email, as that email we are going to store into the backend database. So I'm going to have the email field also, right? So email is also there, right? And also that I'm going to declare one more field to store the roles of the user, that is let's say private, and it is a type of collection. So I'm going to write the collection. Okay, collection, right? And this generic type must extends what granted authority, right? Granted authority, authorities. Okay, so this is what we have, right? And inside this we are going to have that. Now I think I should get the parameterized constructor, as I have declared all the fields. Okay, so let me check. I'm going to click on generate, and let's see constructor. Yes, of course I'm getting this option now, because previously I was not having any fields. Okay, so I'm getting everything over here, right, in the parameterized constructor. Okay, so here what I'm going to do that I'm going to use the builder method over here, right? That whatever user needed information is there, that would be passed from here, right? That is what we are going to do. Okay, so let's create one build function over here that will return the user details service or user details. Okay, so let's create a build function over here. So okay, so what I'm going to declare, that public static user my user details, sorry, we should return the reference of my user detail. Okay, then build, and here the argument that would be passed is user. Okay, so what will happen, that the whatever user information is going to be a fetch from the backend, that would be cast to the my user detail or bind to the my user detail. Okay, that is what we are going to do over here. Okay, so here let me write the statement to get the granted authority first. So list granted authority, okay, followed by authorities is equal to user dot get roles. Okay, so here in the user class I haven't defined the role, so I must have to define that, then this is going to work. Okay, so right now I'm putting this into the comment. Okay, and what I'll be doing, that let me go back to the user class, and here in the user class I'm going to specify that what could be the role of the user. Okay, so for that what I'll be doing, that I'm going to create a new class over here called the role class, the separate role class. Okay, that would be again entity. So I have declared role. Okay, and inside this role there would be only two fields. Those are the username and the associated role, and along with the primary key. So that is what I'm going to add over here. Okay, the primary key has been added, and along with that I'm going to have private string username. Okay, I'm going to have the okay, let's do one thing, that rather than having username over here, let's have only this role name. Okay, that is what we are going to have, and we are going to have one more separate table that would be mapping the user with its role. Okay, so let me generate the getter and setter for the name. Okay, yeah, so getter and setter both are generated, right? And after that what we are going to do, that let's go back to the user class, and in the user class let's declare the relation between the user and this role entity. Okay, let's go back to the user class. Okay, and then I'm going to specify the relationship between the username, user and the role. Okay, but before that uh, okay, we'll see that afterward. Okay, so let's continue with our discussion, that is mapping the user relationship with the role. Okay, so here in the user class what I'm going to do, that let me declare one variable like this, that private set. Okay, the set will define that the unique roles would be there. Okay, rather than having a duplicate roles. So roles is equal to new hash set. Okay, yeah, let me import this from the util package. It is imported, right? It is giving me error over here, that it should be basic attribute type should not be a container. Okay, so I'm getting this error because of Okay, let me check that why I'm getting this error. Let's continue that annotation that we require to add over here. That is here the relationship between this user class and the role class. This is what we are going to define now. So there may be many to many relationship between this user class and the role class, and the fetch type, that means how the data would be fetched from the table of each other. So fetch is equal to fetch type is equal to lazy. Okay, and yeah, so here see, once we have defined this relationship now, automatically that error has been gone. Okay, so now let's continue that. Let's create one more table that would be created based on these two tables, which is a join table, right? And inside the join table I'm going to write few of the things, that what would be the name of this joining table. The name of the joining table would be user underscore roles. Okay, and how the table would be mapped with each other. So now we are going to specify join columns. Okay, and I'm going to use the annotation called join column, right? Which column ID that I want to join. So I'm going to join with the user ID. So this is how I'm going to specify user underscore ID. Okay, and the inverse join column would be from the another table. So inverse join columns is equal to @join column, right? And here the name of the column should be what? It should be role underscore ID, right? So you can see that we have declared this uh, relationship between the role and the user. Okay, so now that we have done this thing successfully, okay, now let's see that what else we require to do into the role table. Okay, so in the role table we don't require to do anything, as everything is done inside the user table. Okay, now let's go back to the my user detail where we are getting the error. Okay, so let me remove this comment. Okay, and here, okay, one more thing that I forgot, let me put this in a comment. Let me go back to the user and let me create a getter and setter for the role. Okay, as we have created the new field, this one, right? So we must have to have getter and setter, right? So that is what I'm going to generate now. So doing right click, generate getter and setter for roles. Perfect. Okay, let me save this and let's go back to the my user detail and let me uncomment the code. Okay, so now here I should get the option that is user dot get roles. Okay, so there is no option which I'm getting right now. Okay, so user dot get roles. Okay, that will convert into the streams. Okay, stream, and we are going to map this stream. Okay, so map, right? And finally that whatever role, the individual role which I'm going to get, right, that would be converted into simple granted authority, because that basically the role would be in the form of string, right? So that's why we are doing this. Okay, simple granted authority, and inside that we'll be passing that role dot get name. Okay, dot name. Okay, this is enough, that role dot get name. Okay, and once it would be there into the individual map. Okay, after that what we are going to do, we are going to convert into the collection. So collection dot to list. Okay, as we are going to convert into the list, so collection dot to list. Okay, right, so we are done with this, and here I'm going to specify semicolon after this. Okay, so now let's see that why we are having error. So first I am importing this list. Okay, and all the error has been gone, right? Now that we are having that all the authorities over here. The only thing is that we require to return the user detail object from here. So here I'm going to create a new user detail object. Okay, so that is in the form of my user detail, right? And there I'm going to provide everything. Okay, so user dot get id, then user dot get username, then user dot get email. Okay, then we are going to provide, that is user dot get password. Yeah, it is there, password is there. Then finally we are going to add the authorities. Okay, so these are the things which we are going to return at the end. Yeah, so followed by semicolon. Okay, so we have created the my user details. Okay, and our my user detail class is ready. So now I can go back to the JWT utils, where I'm going to get the principal from here. Okay, and the principal would return the object of my user detail. Okay, so let's write that my user details, that is my user detail, is equal to, here I require to cast it, that is my user detail. Okay, and then the user details are available over here, right, in the form whichever we require, right? So I'm going to return, okay, that will be built on the JWT builder pattern. Okay, so JWT is, okay, what I'm going to do, that JWT is, okay, now here that what I have to do. So before using this, I must have to uh, include two more dependency in the pom.xml. Okay, so which are those two dependency are specific to this JWT. Okay, so I'm there in the pom.xml, and inside the pom.xml I'm going to add both of the dependency related to JWT. Okay, so here let me type JJWT. Okay, that the dependency should come. Okay, so yeah, here it is, that jj io.json web token. Okay, so this is the dependency which I require. Okay, yeah, so that version is fine. Okay, and also that I require the dependency for that is the, okay, I think this is enough, that we don't require any other dependency. Okay, so let me go back to the, yeah, before going back to the application, let me run the maven goal. Okay, execute the maven so that the dependency would be downloaded. Okay, so dependency has been downloaded, and let me go back to the class, that is JWT utils. Okay, so now here you can see that I'm getting the option to import the JWTs, right? So we are doing the perfect thing. Okay, so let me create the builder from here, that is JWT builder, right? And here we are going to create that set subject. Okay, so basically here we are going to create the JWT token, okay, or JSON web token. So set subject, inside that what we are going to specify, we are going to specify the user's credential. Okay, so I'm going to specify, that is my user detail. Okay, my user detail dot get username. Okay, so that would be the subject. Okay, and then I'm going to specify that when the token is going to be issued. Okay, so set issued at, okay, set issued at, right? So I'm going to specify the date of today, so new date. Okay, new date dot, then I'm going to specify the expiration. Okay, so set expiration. Okay, and let me specify new date. Okay, so from the today's date, okay, today's date, New date, insert the new date. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what is the mistake? New date. Okay, so inside the new date I have to specify one more date. So new date means the today's date plus the JWT expiration date in millisecond, right? Okay, right. Okay, let me import this java.util. Okay, now it should work. Okay, and finally that I'm going to specify sign with. Okay, so whichever signature algorithm that I'm going to use. Okay, so signature algorithm dot, let's use the HS 512 algorithm. Okay, 512 algorithm with the JWT secret. Okay, and let's compress the size of JWT with the help of compact. So this function will create the JWS token or generate the JW token for us. Okay, so along with this, we require to have the method to get the username from the JWS token, because that the username is a part of JWS token as a part of subject, right? So let's write a method to get the username. So I'm declaring a method that is public string get user name from JWT token, and I'm going to provide the token as an argument over here. The method would be that would return the username from the given token is JWT's dot parser dot set sign key, that is the JWT secret, followed by dot parse claims JWS token get body dot get subject, sorry, not subject but subject. Okay, so this will return the username from the given JWT token. Then it's going to have a method that will validate the token that will be sent by the user. Okay, so validate boolean validate token, let me write JWT token, the argument that is string token. Okay, and inside this method we are going to validate the token. Okay, so here, okay, so parse claim JWS token, right? And it may throw the various exceptions like catch. The exception could be the signature exception, where, sorry, signature exception, okay, as, that means the name E, okay, and here I'm going to just print the message that is as out invalid signature. Okay, or let me keep it general, right? So whatever the exception is, that here I'm just writing invalid token. Okay, so we are done with our JWT util class. Okay, so here that once the token is validated, then it should return true, otherwise it will return false. Okay, right, so we are ready with the JWT token, okay, and JWT util rather. Okay, so now let's see that what we have done so far. That so we have the role class, we have a login request from where the user's credential would come, right? We have my user detail, which is going to be used to wrap the user information. Okay, right, and then we are going to have, as we have created this role entity class, so we left with the repository of this role, right? So let's create the role repository. Okay, role repository, and basically it would be interface. So I'm selecting the interface that extends what that JPA repository. Okay, the generic argument would be comma role comma long, the type of primary key. Okay, so let's import the role. Okay, perfect, right? So that role repository is also created, and I can find, suppose if I want to find out the user role by the name. Okay, so what I can do, that I can declare the method that is type of role, that is find by name. Okay, so here the argument would be that role. Right. So we are ready with the role underscore repository, right? And almost everything has been done. Now, what we'll be doing, that let's create the auth controller, and which is already there. In fact, like we have this user controller, and inside the user controller, the once the user is logged in, right, what we'll be doing, that we will be generating a token for the user from this JWT utils, right? We have this particular method. So let's go back to the user controller, and then we are going to write a code to generate a token. Okay, so once that user is authenticated, we are going to have a token for that user by calling the method that is JWT utils. Now JWT utils is the component, right? So I can auto wire that. So let me go to the user controller and let me auto wire that. I'm going to auto wire. Okay, and what I'm going to auto wire, that is JWT utils. Okay, right. So here I can use that the JWT utils dot generate token, and here I can provide the authentication as an argument which we have created over here. Okay, so that will create the JWT token for us, and once this token is ready, that we supposed to send to the front end. Okay, so now here, instead of having the return type that is do login of, sorry, the return type of do login to string, right, I would change it to the response entity, so that I can pass the object, or I can wrap the object and send it to the front end. Okay, so let me have the response entity over here, response entity, and there I'm going to return the object that would be in the form of JSON. Okay, so that would be JWT response object. Okay, so what I'll be doing, that let's have the user detail from the my user detail. Okay, so let me call that my user detail. Okay, my user detail is equal to my user detail IMPL. Okay, and let's get the information from the authentication itself. Okay, so here get principal. Okay, and then you can get the roles from here, that is a list string. Okay, so the roles would be passed as a list of strings. So roles is equal to my user details dot get authorities dot stream, that would be converted to the stream. Okay, and then we are going to map. Okay, and inside the map we are going to have the item. Okay, item is nothing but the row, right? And we are going to have the item dot get authority, right? Okay, whatever the authority it is. Okay, dot collect collectors dot to string, sorry, to list. Okay, and after that we are going to add this, right? So let me import the package of the list. Okay, right, and finally let's create the response entity. So response entity, okay, dot, okay, and inside that we are going to wrap the object of JSON response. Okay, so we haven't created the JSON response class, so let's create the JSON response class in the model itself. So new Java class JWT response. Okay, JWT response. This is what we are going to use as a payload to send the data to the front end. Okay, so let's create the JWT response, and inside the JWT response let's have few fields like private, string, token. Obviously we are going to send a token, right? Then we are going to have a private string token type. Okay, so that is the bearer. Okay, type is equal to bearer. Then private long id, private string username, okay, private string email. Let's add the constructor with all the arguments. Okay, so I have created the constructor, and also let's have the getter and setter. Okay, so all the getter and setter are ready. Right? So our JWT response class is ready. Okay, now let's go back to the user controller, and here I'm going to create the object of that JWT response. Okay, and inside that we are going to provide various arguments. Okay, so the argument would be like this, that the first one is JWT token itself, so JWT comma, then I'm going to specify the user information, that is my user details dot id, right? So my user details, why it is not giving the id? Let me check the my user details. Have I declared? Yes, id is declared. Get, okay, what I'm writing over here, let me check user control dot get id. This should work. Dot get id, it is not working. Let me check once again that do I have the, no, I don't have that getter and setter, that's why it is not working. So let me have the getter and setter of id, generate getter and setter of id. Let me click on OK. Perfect. Okay, yeah, so getter and setter are there. Okay, now let's go back to the user controller, and let me write that get id is there. Okay, comma, my user details dot username, comma, my user detail dot get email is also not there, so let's implement that. Okay, let's include the getter and setter over here, generate getter and setter of email. Okay, so we have done that, and get email. Okay, and finally I'm going to add rows. Okay, that's it. So here this says that expected is 6 argument but found only few. Okay, so let me go back to the JWT response. right. What we have, the first one is the token, the second one is the token type. Okay, so we don't require this token type, so let's remove that. Okay, the token type is already defined, so I'm removing it. Okay, let me save this and let me go back to the user controller. Okay, now it is working perfectly. Okay, so here still it is showing me the error that expected bracket. Okay, so let me give the bracket over here, and our entity is ready. Okay, so now the only thing that we require to implement is the authentication filter, which is not there. Okay, so let's create the filter, authentication filter. The name, oh sorry, the package would be filter dot auth token filter, auth token filter, right? This filter must extend once per request filter. Okay, right, which is required to implement the abstract method. Okay, so that method has been implemented, right? So here I'm going to first auto wire a few of the pins. Okay, so the first pin is JWT utils. Then I require user detail service over here. So auto wire private user detail service, and we have this do filter internal. Okay, so inside this do filter internal, let's have some code to pass the JWT. So every time whenever the client request would come, that request will pass through from this filter, right? So that the token would be extracted from the request and the token would be validated. Okay, so let's write a code for that. So string JWT is equal to parse JWT, and from the request the token would come. Okay, so we are there to implement this parse JWT method. Okay, so let's create this method, parse JWT method. Okay, that would be having a type of string, right? So we are first declaring the method. Okay, parse JWT, the request has been passed over here, and inside this method I'm going to declare the string header auth is equal to request dot get header. Okay, and which header? That is the authorization. Make sure to have the correct name of the header, that is authorization. Okay, followed by semicolon, and then here we are going to check about the validity of the token, that is string utils. Okay, that is the inbuilt class has text header auth. Okay, and header auth dot start with. Okay, so it must be started with the bearer. Okay, followed by one space, and then inside this it should return that whatever the token value is, that is header auth dot substring. Okay, that starts from 7 and ends to header auth dot length. Okay, otherwise we should return null. Okay, so here let me solve this issue that we are getting that hashtag is not a, the string util must be the class from the Spring framework itself. Okay, so string utils right? And then here I will get that method that is has text. Okay, now this is perfect. Okay, so let's come back to this function that is do filter internal, and then we are going to write the remaining code. Okay, so here let's write the if statement, that is if the JWT is null, that means that user is not authenticated, and JWT utils dot validate JWT token. Okay, otherwise that JWT token would be validated if some values are there. Okay, so let's get the username from that. So string username is equal to JWT utils dot get username from JWT token. Okay, so here we will get the username, and once the username is available, then we can have the object of user detail service like this. User detail, sorry, not the user detail service, but I require my user detail, sorry, user detail itself. User details is equal to user detail service dot load user by name, and here the argument would be username. Okay, and then let me import this first. Okay, and then the authentication, internal authentication would be done, that is the user name and password authentication token authentication is equal to new username password authentication token, right? And here we don't require to authenticate it once again, so that's why we are providing only username, not password, right? So I'm just writing null. Okay, and then I'm writing user details dot get authority, so users information will go into the authentication, right? So let me write the semicolon after this, and then let me set the authentication detail, that is authentication dot set details new web authentication detail source dot build details, right? And there I'm going to provide request. Okay, and after this, once this is done, then we are going to set the security context. So security context holder dot get context dot set authentication. Okay, and then after this we should have catch exception e and e dot print stack trace. Okay, so we are ready with the do filter also, right? So almost we have done everything. We'll see the remaining thing in the next video.